afternoon, everyone. This afternoon we are going to do some art. And in art for this term we'll be thinking about some Indian themed artwork, and we're going to explore lots of different media and lots of different fabrics and textures. So we will eventually make something very creative when you're back in school, but this week we're going to focus very much on artwork on paper. So I want to have a quick look at some of the Indian artwork inspired by Indian elephants. You can see these are really beautiful pictures. So we're going to have a go at doing something like this next week. This week what we're going to think about is just representing and drawing, based on our observation of an elephant, how to draw. Now, you guys all know that I'm maybe not the best artist in the entire world based on the drawings that I put on my story plans, etc. So I have enlisted the help of our art expert at St Anthony's, Mrs Adams. So she is going to model the techniques that today in art we'd like you to use. Over to you, Mrs Adams.
So welcome to this sketching lesson, an observational drawing lesson based on drawing an elephant. So you are going to need a piece of plain paper, and I've placed the paper landscape opposed to portrait because it's going to work better for the shape of the elephant. So I've got my piece of paper. If you have got some sketchbook paper at home, that would be amazing, but this is just a normal piece of white paper. I have also got a pencil, which you're going to need. This is a normal writing pencil. It's an HB pencil. Again, if you really love doing art at home and you've got other resources, you could experiment with using some different grades of pencils, but I'll leave that to you if you are an art expert. And you're also going to need a rubber, but that's just for rubbing out the guidelines after you've finished your final piece. So I don't need to rub out too much because I want it to look like a sketch, and I want to see the process that you've gone through to get your final observational drawing of an elephant. So I've got my normal HB pencil, normal A4 piece of paper, and I'm going to start with my guidelines. So for my guidelines, you're going to need, and notice how I'm making my lines. I'm not drawing, I'm going to get another piece of paper so I can show you. I'm not pressing hard, and I'm not trying to draw the outline like this, because actually I can't draw like that because I don't get the shape that I would like. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to really use light, short lines. And don't forget, you can rub these out afterwards. So the shape I'm drawing is the elephant's body, but it's not going to look like an elephant's body yet because it's just going to be an oval shape. So can you see that oval shape there? So really light, really sketchy pencil lines. And then I'm going to need a circle for the elephant's head. Again, it's not going to look like an elephant yet. These are just our guidelines to help us. So there's my circle. Can you see the way that my circle overlaps my oval shape? So now it's time to add some features to your elephant. So I'm going to start to use my guidelines to help me draw the body of the elephant. Now you can start wherever you would like to. I'm going to start here between the top of the head and the top of the body. And I'm just going to draw a line from the head across to the body. And can you see now I'm actually using a much firmer line? You can still sketch that line, but it's much more firm. It's much a harder line. I'm pushing harder to make it a darker line. Then I'm going to do the same round the elephant's body, or around the back of the elephant. And I'm going to want to think about my tail being about here, maybe a little bit higher. Remember, if you've got a picture of an elephant that you're looking at, it might differ slightly from my elephant, but it's going to be just on the top side of the back of the elephant. And then I'm going to miss the tail and carry on for a minute and go down. and I'm going to think about where the legs are. So I'm just going to sketch out where I think the elephant's legs might be. So that's one leg. And then I want one leg behind to give it a really three-dimensional look, a 3D look. Then I'm going to carry on with his body. I'm going to think about another leg. Don't forget, legs aren't one line down. They have to be a 3D shape. Then the other leg behind it there. And then I'm going to carry on up here to his head. So let's add the tail in now. So my elephant's tail is going to go down, a line down towards the floor, and then another line from this point, and I'm going to meet a bit like a triangle, but a very long, thin triangle. Now, if you want to give it a little bit of a curve, you can make it a little bit more curved because it's not going to be a straight line for that tail. And then for the tail, I'm just going to put a sort of semicircle line, another semicircle line, and a line there, just to give it a little bit of movement there. So I'm also going to make his body a little bit, I'm going to add a bit more movement to that line to make it not so straight round. Then I'm going to think about this back leg. Can you see that I've made that a curve and not gone straight down? If you're looking at your elephant's leg, you'll notice that it doesn't go like a straight line down. Then you're going to have to think about how long your elephant's legs are. So I'm going to do that one there. And I'm going to just go in slightly, and that's the back of his knee, and go round slightly, because they're not straight legs, are they? Now, this is his sort of thigh here, and you're going to want to have a curved line that comes a little bit like that around the thigh, that meets the leg and then goes down. And don't forget, on the other side of the knee, you're going to have to move it out a little bit, like it's kneecap sort of thing. Then all the way down. And at the bottom, you're going to need a curved line to make it look like it's standing on the ground. Now, this back leg, of course, is behind the other side of the elephant. So it's going to be shorter, because although that leg is the same length as this leg, it's the perspective, the way we're looking at the elephant. Round to the kneecap. And down, and you might want to add a few lines in, but we'll talk about adding the lines in a moment. So got his body there. I'm just going back over the line there, and again you're going to have the muscle that is that part of the elephant. This is the other leg at the front now, and it also makes you can see that this is now this leg that's on this side opposed to that leg that's on that side. And I'm just going to do a little guideline across to make sure that my elephant's legs are the same length, and I'm going to do that for both the elephant's legs so that I get them the right length, otherwise he'd fall over. And round we go. And again, do that curved line at the bottom. It wouldn't be a straight line. Don't forget his kneecap. And now the leg behind, and don't forget it's behind, so it needs to be like that. Round like that. Don't forget those little lines to show the skin sort of folding over the knee. So now you've got his body, you've got his four legs and his tail, and we're going to focus now on his head, the head area. So for his head, I want to map out the ear, because that's a really important part of the elephant. So I'm going to try and see if I can make the ear. So the ear comes from the middle of that circle, but slightly further down. You don't want it coming from the top. And you go up slightly. And then I've done a little angle there, a little turn to that corner. And again, I'm going to do a little turn all the way down. and I want his ear sort of meeting his body here. And don't forget, if your ear's not big enough, rub it out and have another go. This is why we do sketchy lines. His head is going to have to come from here. And we need to make sure that he's got the ear on the other side of his head. So I'm just going to do a little curve like that, and it just gives you the little idea that there might be an ear on the other side. So now I'm going to move around the elephant, and I need to think about his mouth. And from his mouth, or just above his mouth, I want to think about a curved line and then a tusk coming out. So that's a curved line. Don't forget, at any point in this video, you can pause, draw that section, and then carry on playing the video. Now this is the tusk on this side of the elephant, so we do want a tusk on the other side of the elephant, but I need to draw my trunk first. So the trunk comes just above the mouth, and I'm going to make it a nice curvy trunk, because you don't want it to be straight, because he wants to curve that trunk round. And a little line, and then it sort of goes in, doesn't it? I'm going to go around here, up here, right to the tusk, and it meets the tusk there, but don't forget, it doesn't stop there. It needs to go all the way up with the head and carrying on round to meet there. Now, don't forget, I said you need a tusk on the other side, but I'm going to make it slightly higher. Like I did the legs, I'm going to make it slightly higher. It's in the same place on both sides of the elephant, but it's the way we're looking at the elephant, the perspective. And on the elephant, as you know, as you can see from the pictures that you might look at on the internet, elephants aren't smooth, are they? Their skin has got lots and lots of lines. So we'll add those in more in a minute, but I've just done a few lines down the trunk to give it a bit of definition. Add a little curve on those lines, and that will help to make your picture look more 3D, less like a flat picture and more like an elephant popping out from the page. So we now need the eye of the elephant. Now the eye of the elephant is going to be above the mouth, and it's going to be, if you remember this guideline of the circle, it's going to be almost to the top. So you're going to need a bigger space underneath and a smaller space up the top. And I'm going to do a circle, but we don't want his eye, just a circle. And then I'm going to do a sort of an oval, and it will just make it look like he's opening his eye. Can you see it? And I've done a little tiny dot in the middle there to give it a little bit of depth to the eye. Elephants have lots and lots of lines under their eyes and above their eyes. Now, that is your basic elephant, but if you would like a challenge today, I would like you to add some shading and some lines to show that the texture of the elephant. So the first bit of shading I'd like you to add is I want you to look at where you think the light would be blocked by a body part. So underneath the ear is going to be really dark because the light isn't going to be able to go through that ear. So I'd like you to do some lines underneath. Can you see it? And I'm just doing little tiny lines, but I'm pressing harder and harder and harder the closer I get to that body part. Can you see? Then the same here, underneath his tummy, here, the light isn't going to be able to get through, so you're going to get a dark shadow down there. And I'm just doing these little tiny lines all the way down there, just to make it look as if it's underneath the elephant. The same with the back leg. And the same underneath the tail, because you're not going to be able to see that light all the way down there. I'm going to do a little tiny bit around here. And you can spend longer doing this. I'm just doing it really quickly to show you. Give it a little bit of shading, and just makes it pop. It makes it come out of the paper. And around here, because that's casting a shadow, the other ear is casting a shadow, and a little bit more around here. So there's your basic shadow line. Oh, under the tusk. Look, I almost forgot. Can you see under that tusk? Because the light wouldn't be able to pass through that tusk. Down there. So you've got your basic shadow. Now you can explore adding lots of lines to give the elephant texture. But before you do that, I'd like you to rub out these lines. I don't want you to rub out anything else. I just want you to rub out that guideline, because if you look what happens to the ear, the minute I rub out those guidelines, you can really start to see that ear. And there's a little guideline there and through the tusk, but because you press so lightly when doing it, it will rub out really easily and the other lines will stay because you pressed harder, you made it a harder line. And of course, if you've got those special pencils, you'll be able to experiment with making a darker line and a lighter line. So I am going to check in with your tapestry posts because I can't wait to see your picture of an elephant.
Wow, Mrs. Adams demonstrated that beautifully and way better than I would have ever been able to draw a elephant. So, like she said, we're looking forward to seeing your observational drawings of those elephants on tapestry later today.